Us humble weebs have seen a lot of anime over the years, especially recently, with nearly 200 anime TV shows, ONAs, OVAs, and movies being released every single year since the turn of the decade. Most of this anime comes out in the now rigidly timed seasonal release schedule, where every anime TV show in a given season has its first episode debut within a week or 10 days of all the others, and the OVAs and ONAs usually try to match this. But this wasn't always the case. Take summer 1999 for example. We have Great Teacher Onizuka debuting on June 30th, Orechuban Ibichu hitting the airwaves on August the 1st, Colorful, no not that one, yeah that one, coming out on September the 6th, and Legend of Black Heaven released on July 8th. Here across 4 months, we have some of the biggest shows of the season all debuting. This is the case going as far back as the archives of my anime list will let me. It's winter 1917 by the way. This was likely because studios wanted to avoid competing with one another, and it was to their advantage to just run shows during open calendar slots. However, in the early 2000s, something happened. Anime started getting released in tighter groupings. As early as the winter season of 2001, we have the top 5 most popular anime debuting within just 3 days of each other. Yeah, there are still some stragglers out there, but we've improved massively from just 6 seasons ago. So why did this start happening? Well, anime got big in the West right around this time. This period is known as the anime boom. Suddenly studios had way more eyes on them, and the demand for more and more anime coming out sooner got bigger and bigger. They literally could not print the DVDs fast enough in some cases. Studios would just rush to put out content, and thus, rather inadvertently, the anime seasonal release schedule was born. For the sake of simplicity, let's just go ahead and declare that anime started getting released on a semi-rigid seasonal basis in the winter season of 2000. This means that 72 seasons of anime have come and gone since this admittedly arbitrary date, leaving us in the midst of the 73rd season of anime right now. This then brings up one rather pressing, burning, cynical question. What was the worst anime season of all time? But how could one possibly answer this question? Like it or not, anime is art, and art is subjective, right? Plus, there's been so much anime released during this time, no one person could have watched every single show from every season. Well, we're not going to be asking just one person, we're going to go ask everyone. By our powers of weebery combined, we have the answer, myanimelist.net. Mal has aggregate scores of every show, ONA, OVA, and movie that came out in a given season. These scores are the average of every single rating given by every single person who watched the show and put it on their list. And me, being the unhinged madman that I am, have collected all these scores into an Excel spreadsheet so that I might be more well equipped to answer this nagging question. But before I set off on this epic quest of data entry, I had to set up some ground rules. First, I would only attribute an anime to the season in which it debuted. For example, Kill la Kill debuted in the fall season of 2013, but it concluded in the winter of 2014. Thus, its score of 8.2 would only count for the fall 2013 season. This is to make sure that long-running shonen shows like Naruto and Bleach that are relatively well received, but eventually end, don't throw off the scores of all subsequent seasons once that show concludes. Second, I'm not counting OVAs that act as bonus episodes for an already existing series. This is because the only people who watch these are fans of the original show, and thus they tend to give OVAs artificially high scores, thus throwing off the average for the season. And third, an anime must have at least 1,000 people who have it listed on their Mal account. This is so some of the really obscure shows that are total crap don't drag down the otherwise good season. Also, my criteria for what counts as the worst season of all time isn't going to be just derived from its score. If I did that, then the worst season would be the winter season of 2003 with an average score of 6.64. I will take into account how many good shows are in the mix as well as the number of shows in that given season. Seasons with fewer shows will get more of a pass for an overall low score than seasons with a high number of shows. That way one anime doesn't just throw everything off. So with that criteria out of the way, we can finally address and hopefully answer the question, what was the worst season in anime history? Well, that dishonor goes to the spring season of the year of our Lord 2001. First off, the average score here isn't that bad, 6.99, and it was fairly normal for seasons in the early 2000s to get scores slightly lower than that, and most anime seasons get a low 7, so this isn't too far off. So why does this season end up being so bad in spite of its relatively decent score? One phrase sums it all up. Water, water everywhere, but not a drop to drink. It's like dying of thirst while at sea. This season has far more anime than any other season in its neighborhood. Most seasons during this time saw between 20 and 30 new anime hit the airwaves, and some had fewer than 15. Hell, the summer season of 2000 had just 4 new anime TV shows that debuted. But in the spring season of 2001, we got almost 40. 40 new TV shows, OVAs, ONAs, and movies. Yet despite this, its average score couldn't even top 7. And bear in mind that having a lot of anime in a given season is usually pretty good for its score. The data shows that having a large number of anime in a given season has a positive effect on its score, but not here. So why? Well, let's go ahead and give you the rundown. First, the shows that just barely hold up this season so it doesn't sink into total irrelevance. At the top of the charts for this season is the Detective Conan movie number 5, which is the only anime this season to have a score above an 8. To date, 555 anime can claim an aggregate score of 8 or higher, but this season we just got 1. And to top it all off, it's from a Detective Conan movie, and those are always scored well because the only people who watch them are already fans of Detective Conan. And then there's the 9th Shin-Chan movie, which raked in a 7.78, but again, those movies are always scored decently, so that just barely counts as well. The Read or Die OVA kicks off during this season, and it more than earns its solid score of 7.75, but it consists of just 3 33-minute episodes. It later got a TV adaptation, but the property as a whole is still very obscure, with only 46,000 people having the OVA series listed on their MAL accounts. And just for comparison, the Ancient Magus Bride has 269,000 people listing it. It's not even close to cracking the top 200 most popular anime of all time. Speaking of obscure, the most highly rated TV anime this season is Hare plus Goo, a comedy anime scoring it at a nice 7.89, but doesn't even have 25,000 people who have watched it. And that rounds out the highest rated anime of the season, 2 movies based off of long-running TV shows nobody gives a rip about, an obscure OVA series, and an even more obscure TV series. If we take these 4 anime out of the equation, our average score for the season ends up being just 6.88. Not a terribly bad hit for a season that doesn't have much else going for it. So what else is there to watch this season? Well, not much more than an endless sea of 6s and 7s, an absolute dearth of good or interesting shows. The most popular show is Digimon Tamers this season, a spinoff from the original kids show. It is also the only anime this season with over 100,000 people listing it on their account. The vast majority of seasons can claim a few shows that get 6 figures, but this season just nabs the one. The second most popular anime is Noir, a generic girls with guns show that hits in at just 7.39, and 75,000 people having it listed. The rest of the shows are absolutely nothing to write home about either. Kido Tenshi, Angelic Lair, The New Legend of Snow White, Hanakyo Maidtai, Galaxy Angel, The Soul Taker, Sister Princess. Does anybody remember any of these shows? Anybody at all? Has anybody ever even heard of them? Heck, it seems like anime fans just in general just skipped out on this season. And I don't think it has anything to do with the age of the season either. Just the next season over, summer 2001, we have Fruits Basket, Shaman King, S. Cryed. Going back to the early 2000s, there are classics in here. There's just absolutely none this season. Digimon Tamers is as close as we get. It was like everybody looked at the seasonal chart that year and was just like, I think I'll pass on that, and well, everything. The entire season is just an exercise in futility with nothing breaking the mold and nothing scoring high enough to even acclaim hidden gem status. What few titles do pique my interest are little more than bait anyway. You're Under Arrest Season 2 is just cute girls as cops, and Offside is just some sports shonen, and those always get scored well because sports offer up a universally compelling story by their very nature of being sports shows. Imagine being the anime fan you are today with all of the tools that you have today at your disposal, going back and trying to find something to watch during the spring season of 2001. You'd be banging your head against the wall thinking to yourself, well, surely there has to be something good this season, I just have to find it, only to delve deeper and deeper into obscurity and irrelevance, never finding anything compelling to watch. If there is indeed a hell for us otaku folk, it is clearly embodied in this season. This is not just a misstep in anime, it is a cautionary tale, one to show us how good we all have it these days. But as we leave this season, you may be asking the logical follow-up question to this exploration into Crap Mountain. What was the worst anime of the worst anime season? What anime can claim to be at the top of this crap pile and maybe, just maybe, make a run at being the worst anime of all time? I mean, being the worst anime of the worst anime season has to at least get you in the conversation, right? Well, brace yourselves, weebs, for the worst of the worst is upon us. run equals dim, or run dim. I'm not exactly sure how you're supposed to say it or what it's supposed to mean. It's a mech show that sounds interesting enough in and of itself. Global warming, rising sea levels, lands running out, other factions are fighting each other. It actually just sounds like every Gundam ever made. Never mind. It even had a Dreamcast tie-in game that was released the same year, but as you boot up your illegal stream to watch this monstrosity, you realize it is all in CG. Not even good CG. This is 2001 CG. Ugh. Yeah, the cover art is totally misleading. A 2D anime girl in front of a 3D mech. Maybe it's half and half. Nope, all CG, my guy. A 5.14 rating is not as bad as it could be, but the sole review written on Mal gives you a good insight into how this farce earned its score. Being considered tired in trope field even before anime tropes were widely known is a bad enough accusation, but bad character and mech designs that make it difficult to follow the action, which is lacking in any weight or narrative gravity anyway, makes this show's faults unforgivable. A mech show with bad action sequences? Well then what the hell is the point of a mech show? Actually, come to think of it, Run equals Dim is a perfect encapsulation of the spring 2001 season as a whole. Not terrible enough to be offensively bad, but boring and uninspired enough to completely skip out on with prejudice. And there, that does it. That was the worst anime season of all time. Pray to Hideki Anno and Miyazaki that this terrible period is never repeated. Take care and enjoy what you have, my fellow weebs. See you next time.